From the shadow of Mount Rainier comes your business superheroes, the Disruptors, Bill and Candace.
I'm Bill.
And I'm Candace.
And we're the Disruptors. Hey, guess what? I got a limousine service to drop me off today. What do you think of that, Candace? Huh?
Oh, I think that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, doggone right.
Does that mean I get to start charging you now?
No.
If you can afford a limousine service.
Well, no, they dropped me off. In fact, they're here today. Stan is here today to talk about the limousine service. So what I want you to do is, I know this is going to be hard for you to do, but calmly introduce our guest today, if you can.
Okay, I love Stan.
Okay.
Stan and I have had a few one-on-ones, and I love him.
I see.
Okay. So, Stan Kistel of 24-Hour Black Car Service. Welcome to the show, Stan.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Well, I'm glad he's here, too, because it's...
Was he a good passenger?
Yeah.
Did he behave himself?
Oh, good. Now we can get that out of the way. Thank you so much.
Did he drink up all your water?
No, the waters were intact.
Okay.
Waters intact. Oh.
He didn't, leave wrappers in your seats or anything like that?
Oh, yeah, that's what I hate, but not this time.
Not this time.
Wow.
It's always
so
bad.
he's a well-behaved passenger.
I did fine this time, yes. And they actually stopped and opened the door instead of just driving by and automatically shoving me out.
We're not going there.
Yes. What we want to do today, Stan, is talk about the limousine service. This is kind of unique because a lot of people, especially out here in Puyallup, aren't really acquainted with what's available, what's going on. So we want to talk about your limousine service and how you service the area and the special things you do for passengers.
Well, limousine service, as we call it, also a town car service or an SUV service can be all one type of service. And it's very unique where it gives the passengers or the travelers or family members the experience that you would always love that a taxi cab would have, but never get it because you get the taxi cab service for calling a cab service. So limousine service, it pampers you from door to door, even from the start sometimes. People that go to the airport, especially if they use their service in the past, they know that if the luggage is out on the porch, the driver has permission to load the luggage up. So you don't have to haul it. The only hauling that you do before the airport or after the airport is to the baggage claim.
Oh.
So we do open your doors, like you mentioned, provide water, provide different kind of refreshments, whoever would like what kind of special treatments. There's weddings that we do as well. Wedding service is a big, popular limousine service that a lot of people would do because they would associate weddings and limousine service a lot more than airport service.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. Well, and there's the prom and special events for the one use limousine service.
I love limousine service, especially Stan's.
I see. You've been in a limousine before,
I
of
have,
course.
actually. Yes, when I worked for an entrepreneur.
I see.
And I opened up small businesses. We had a limousine service pick us up and take us all the time. And it really, it was really disappointing when the owner of that company got arrested for tax evasion. And suddenly the limousine service went out the door. Wow. And that's where I learned the value of paying taxes. But we won't talk about that today.
We'll have an IRS special later. Yeah,
right.
Great idea. Great idea. Well, Stan, tell us a little bit about the area that you cover and just kind of fill us in.
And tell us about you.
About Stan?
Yes.
About Stan. So Stan and his limo service, what they cover is anything west of Snoqualmie Pass. So we like to say anything up and down the I-5 corridor. What we're trying to focus on more is anything south of the airport right now. So South King County, Pierce County, and even into the Thurston County areas. We would like to get more awareness there because it seems like we don't have that much competition in these areas. And a lot of people don't like driving, that far south because they see the market in Seattle as booming. So all the competitors just want to associate Seattle or Bellevue as their market.
Sure. Well, they're assuming that there's more expendable income
right
in those areas. But, calling you up and having your service come and take somebody is not as expensive, I think, as people would think. So they're not looking at dropping a $500 note.
Correct.
So I think it's far more reasonable than what people give it credit to. So how do your rates compare to taxi? And it's not about the rates, but just for comparison, because your service is far more, it's far superior than a
it's more
taxi.
customized.
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
Hey, you get in the cab.
Right. So usually for comparisons, what we like to tell people is, whereas the taxi cab companies, they have the smaller vehicles, so it's more cramped. You have less space, whether for passengers or luggage. We have for maybe 20%, sometimes depending on the service area, maybe even 30% difference in price increase. But you have a larger vehicle, you have that, like you mentioned, customized service, where we know that if we're picking up from a specific house, that they don't want us to pick up from the front of the house because the dogs may bark in the early morning hours and wake up the whole house, or kids. They ask us to park on the street or on the cul-de-sac, so that doesn't happen. We respect that. We have that in our notes to where drivers are informed before they pick up. We also have special requests, so if we have elderly people or people with maybe an injury, we're not going to send a big SUV or
Something you'd have to have a ladder to get into.
Correct. And like we mentioned earlier, we open the doors and make sure that people are comfortable. It's not like you're stopping by at a curb waiting for somebody to load their luggage by themselves, jumping in their car, and the cars don't smell. We politely ask people to not smoke and not have any vapes or anything like that to
That's
have
good.
a pleasant smell for everybody.
Right. Very true.
And if somebody in the past we had that wanted to smoke, we pull over and say, hey, if you want to smoke, we'll wait for you. You can have your 5-minute smoke and we'll be on our way again. As long as the smell doesn't interfere with the vehicle and then the next passenger is not felt uncomfortable.
So it really makes it a customized luxury ride. I mean, you let the passenger actually control what's going on to a certain degree.
Correct.
Of comfort.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a look at the drivers. It's always been a big question. How do you pick your drivers, and what kind of standards do you have for your drivers for these limos?
Well, we abide by the state rules and regulations of limousine drivers, to where they have to attend a specific chauffeur class, and it's a 2-day class, depending on the amount of hours that the driver that wants to be hired on has. They can condense it into a 1-day course. It just depends on the amount of hours that they take. They go through background checks, physical checks.
Wow.
They take these classes on what to do. Say if you're helping a younger lady get in the vehicle or get out of the vehicle, how you're supposed to behave to give everybody the proper respect and treatment, to not make the passenger uncomfortable. The types of conversations that you can have in the vehicle and that you're not supposed to have. They go through a wide range of do's and don'ts, and that's what we have our chauffeurs take those classes. So then they provide that standard of service. Not only do we do that on the phones when passengers call and request a service, but they translate that in the vehicles as well as the drivers.
So when we call limousine service, we actually can be kind of at ease when we call your service, because these are professional drivers that know how to handle the actual luxury ride that you pay for, and how to make sure that you're comfortable. This is wonderful.
I like the customer experience. First of all, I like the fact that you put controls to a degree in the customer's hands.
Correct.
And, let's say I wanted Voss water over, I don't know,
Calgon.
Refresh.
Yeah.
Refresh water.
Liquid water, yeah.
That we would have that. And I'm assuming, and I shouldn't do that, but you've got snacks, because you just said if they had special requests. So
Correct.
if, let's say I've had a long day and I want fresh fruit or fresh vegetables or something like
Correct.
that. I mean, I love that. You're never going to get that from a taxi cab company.
No.
Or
For
that matter, an Uber driver or anybody else.
Well, I didn't want to bring up Uber for a stand.
Well, but
sake.
the truth is that
I
people.
appreciate that.
The truth is, though, that people are weighing those options and they're saying, okay, what can I do? And if you're only paying 20% more for the service, it's a no-brainer. It's why would you not pick up the phone and give you a call and have your service come? So let's say I want to do that. What's your phone number?
The phone number is 206-474-4999. And call. We usually kindly request that people call between 8 and 10 or 8 in the morning and 10 in the evening. So then that gives our dispatch some relaxed time. And we also ask that you plan ahead when you want a car service. Due to wherever people are, it could be hard to get to if you're doing it last minute. So
Sure. Matter of fact, I was just going to ask you, how far ahead should somebody call up if they've got, let's say, a wedding?
for weddings, we prefer that you call at least 7 days in advance.
Okay.
Usually brides prepare way ahead of time for their
True.
like wedding dresses, the catering, and everything else. So we would assume that you would plan the car service at that time as well. The earlier, the better. What we have is, due to us not being a large company, we prefer that if you do request a larger vehicle, like the stretch limousines that we do have, at least 2-3 weeks in advance due to availability. So
Interesting.
you also want to have that, if you call last minute, you may not have the availability of a 20-passenger limousine, whereas the smaller vehicles like the sedans or the SUVs, if you give us a couple days notice, we can provide that.
So that'd be nice. See, in your case, one with a hot tub in the back would be lovely, right?
Well, I think you have a Hummer.
We do have a Hummer, correct?
That was what a little birdie had said. So, girls' night out.
Well, in a Hummer?
Yeah, why not?
Oh, for Pete's sake.
We make that Hummer look hot and sexy.
Oh, Shiminy Christmas. There's nothing more. Good. Hummer, yes. Well, tell us something else. Not wanting to bring it up, but I already brought it up anyway. I realize that Uber is kind of stealing you guys' ideas of comfort, snacks and water and all that stuff. But I don't think people really understand Uber and some of the problems that is available with Uber. For instance, the insurance question, we had Kim from Farmers explain to us that Farmers in January is coming out with the policy because a lot of times Uber drivers aren't covered.
Correct.
And when you get into a limousine situation, I would imagine that you've got all those things in place in case of something, God help, that it wouldn't happen, but you would be, as a passenger, covered with all insurance requirements required.
Correct. And that is the state requirement that most or all companies are supposed to have. Even if you're a taxi or if you're a business that transport people, you have to have business insurance, which in most cases the state has to check that policy before you're able to operate. Now, in the case of Uber that you mentioned, they don't do as much checking as they should, which is why we have all these cases that we hear that happen. And then also that I tell my friends and family that know me or that know my service that using Uber is basically a risk that you are taking upon yourself because they don't do a strict background check on the drivers too. So sometimes passengers, especially if they're younger, if they're driving by themselves or they're getting a ride by themselves, they can be in a little uncomfortable situations due to the bypassing of certain laws and certain.
Well, it's peace of mind. So if I wanted my daughter to go to a prom and I wanted to make sure she got there safe and she came home safe, it's a no-brainer. How much is peace of mind?
Right.
So
for everybody is different.
That's very true.
Business costs money. Bill and I have ran into businesses that actually didn't have business license, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
We've actually ran into
we have.
businesses that
Are not registered with the state.
They weren't registered with the state. They didn't have insurance. The owner was abusing, the privilege of elderly people's information,
Correct.
identity theft and stuff, and different things like that. And so, it's important that when you go to do business, you do business with a reputable company like yours. It costs money. There's a cost to just doing business. And I think that sometimes we want to sidestep and we have a dollar store mentality. And the fact is that it didn't cost $1 to insure that rig. It didn't cost $1 to buy it. The training wasn't $1.
Right.
Gas is not $1 a gallon.
Not anymore.
No, heavens no.
So there's a legitimate cost just to wake up in the morning and do business. And so no matter what your industry is.
Correct.
And